We here with a distinguished gentleman.
I am retired Major General Ralph Brown. I retired from the Army in 1995 as the Chief of Defense Staff and as first Major General. I joined the Army in 1962, before independence, having gone to St. Mary's College, where I played basketball and hockey for the college. And in 1970, the Army had a mutiny. I myself was in Canada on a course at that time, and I returned to Trinidad. I was recalled to Trinidad, and Jock Surrett had returned as the commander of the Defense Force, and I was his staff officer. After the mutiny, Jock Surrett spoke to me and inquired of me what we should do to get the regiment to win back its name. At the time, we had a very good regiment played in the Port-au-Prince Football League, and we had a number of soldiers who joined in the first batch of recruits. And to name a few, Lincoln Phillips, Clive Niles, Calvin Barassa, Jerry Brown, Godfrey Achille, Miley York, Victor Camaldo, and some of them were national players. So I said that we should protect the Army team and the regimental band. At that time also, the Coast Guard campaigned in the Northern Football League, and they had some players that we thought would have made it to the regiment team, and we changed from the regiment to the Defense Force. That's when we first came as the Defense Force. I became the manager of the football team. I took over from Captain Risky, who retired from the Army. He left the Army at the same time. And I, together with Ron Champion, Lieutenant Champion, who was a Royal Naval officer attached to the Coast Guard, we spoke, and we thought we'd take the entire team up to England to play and to do a coaching course, and to be trained in England. So in 1973, the Defence Force went to England. We stayed at Dartmouth, in the south of England, and we played several teams in the United Kingdom. And at the same time, all the members of the football team, myself included, did a preliminary coaching badge course, which was put on by the English FA. 7 of us got past the course and got preliminary soccer coaching badges. I subsequently sent the other 6 off to England to do the full badge course, and that was in 1973. In 1974, we hosted Howard University in Trinidad. And the following year after that, they hosted us in Washington, D.C. And thereafter, we began a series of training. In those days, cricket was played in the first 6 months of the year, and football was played between July and December, believe it or not. Nowadays, football is played 12 months of the year, so too is cricket.
Yeah.
In those days, cricket was the first 6 months, football was the second 6 months. So that in May every year, I took the Defense Force team up to New York, where we trained in intensive training for about the 3 weeks that we were there at Prospect Park. And we played against 1 or 2 teams in New York. I recall vividly, there was a team of Italians, and we trained every morning at Prospect Park, and then we played games in the afternoon. Right. I think it was, I don't know who mentioned to me that Iere in Toronto ran a tournament every year. And my contact for that was, I think, Tom Sosa. I think I remember that. And I got in touch with him, and I entered the tournament. I think this might have been 1975.
Was it Tom or Miles?
But Miles came into the picture more prominently than Tom did eventually when I got to Toronto. But I think it was Tom that Tom Sousa. But as I said, when we got to Toronto that first time, Miles, who I went to school with, was there. And Miles, we are good friends. I mean, even today, 20-something years later, we are very good friends, very close. And so we would take a Greyhound bus. After we did the stint in New York, we would take the Greyhound bus. And I think it was over Victoria Day
Weekend, yes. Correct.
But this tournament was held. And Miles and Tom and the other guys that were in Trinity made arrangements for the team, split them up to stay amongst families. Because unlike New York, so we did meet some very good Trinidadians up there who put us all up. And we entered the tournament.
What you thought of the tournament?
Yes, the Iere tournament. And of course, we had a good team at that. The team had changed by then. And we did have national players on our team. Charlie Henry, I think if you remember Charlie Spooner, Winston Phillips, they all played for the national team. Ron Lapore, Len Lapore, Kenny Joseph from St. Olsen Benedict Boy, and several others. Like the names escape me now, but we did have a significant number of our players played for Trinidad. And of course, we came out on top.
Most of the time, yes, you were in the finals.
Honestly, I enjoyed the Toronto stint more so than the New York stint. Because it looked as if every Trinidadian living in Toronto turned up, and I think it's Lamport Stadium, I'm not too sure, I think that was the venue. And there was a significant number of Trinis all shouting for us on the stand. You would think we were playing in Trinidad. As I remember it also, I think there was the other Caribbean islands, I think, had teams on their own.
Yeah.
It's like everything else. We came out on top. And we did that for several years. Every year we would go up and they would entertain us and they would keep us. So much so that recently, I think last year, we had a sort of reunion. And we reminisced on those days that we all did. Because don't forget, you're talking here now, that was 10 days, you're talking almost 40 years ago. And we still get together. I'm now living in Tobago, and once a year they would come across and spend some time with me and we reminisce of the good old days. And I mentioned the regiment being in the Port of Spain League. You wouldn't believe it. There were more people who looked at football in the Savannah than I see are looking at football now in the National League in Trinidad. You're talking in the 60s here now. And there were more people looking at football then than are looking at football now, or what passes for football now in Trinidad. And I really am disappointed in the manner in which you see where we have reached in football. Jack Warner did a lot for football, but he had his own problems. But to see that we made it to the World Cup, in
2006.
Yeah, and we made it then, and to see what passes for the national team now, I tell them my defense force team would have beaten the current Trinidad team every day of the week and twice on a Sunday. See, regrettably, the defense force team itself is deteriorating. And look, I don't see the spirit, the fighting spirit that we had in the regiment and in the defense force team in those days, and in the national team in those days. Dally Cunning and Archibald and those other guys put Trinidad and Tobago on the map. I am wondering what they're thinking, what has happened to our football? Everybody wants to be at right job, but everybody can't be at right job. And I don't see the fight, I don't see the spirit.
So what do you think is needed?
In those days, for example, right, the defense force, when we played Civic Center Civic Center beat us 1-0. I think 1 year they beat us 1-0. Not a man in that bus coming down from Point Fortin said a word. They all felt it. Nowadays, they play football, they lose 5-0. I try to recommend the defense force team. Somebody beats the defense force last year 4-0. But teams couldn't score a goal against us in those days. They're losing 4-0. Where's the fight? Where's the spirit? I don't know. I don't see it. I don't follow. For the same reason that I just said, I don't. And I am wrong here. I should really should be following the team a lot more. But I'm in my 80s now, you know. So
You look good.
I don't go to see the games anymore. You know, and but I think it's all boiling down to the coaching staff. How they inspired these guys to go out there and give it their all for Trinidad and Tobago. Everybody, they wanted to talk about these guys, they want to play pretty football and that sort of thing. They didn't have that in our day. It was a team effort. The spirit, and I'm talking about the national team and my own team, the defense force. Everybody in those days wanted to beat the defense force. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember.
You know, we were a good team and everybody wanted to beat us. And Trinidad and Tobago was the best team in the Caribbean, in CONCACAF. Look where we've reached. Look where we've reached. We can't beat Angola. Africa has gone on beyond us now. 80. Right?
Yeah.
It requires some motivational training as distinct from the football skill. Because I am pretty certain these guys do have the skill. But the motivation isn't there.
So
and they probably need to get somebody on the team to take care, to lecture them, a motivational speaker, somebody, you know. I don't know if you remember in the early days, Billy Red Otley, he died recently. That team with Gary Cummings and Archibald and those other guys. She was the motivational speaker. She motivated those guys. He never kicked a line in a line of the coaching. We need that. We need that today.
everything else, where do you have Toronto ranked?
From a personal point of view, you know, I like Toronto. And in fact, I hope people are not going to take me to task for this, but I'd rather prefer Toronto to New York. My son lives in Toronto now, so I visit from time to time. And I did several military courses in Canada and in Toronto. And my preference is Canada rather than the United States, let's put it that way. I think after the England tour, I would rate the Toronto visit second best. As opposed to Washington or the New York things that we did. I think they enjoyed it. I mean, I really had a good bunch of soldiers and sailors to work with. I mean, we trained every morning. Every single morning during the season, even if we had a game in the afternoon. But of course, we do some light training rather than heavy training. And I mean, concentrated training. Because what we did, when we went to England in 1973, the two FA trainers that ran the course for us, the preliminary soccer coaching course with us, one we invited to Trinidad the next year, the following year, and he coached the defense force team. John Ellis was his name. He went to Washington with us when we were hosted by Howard University. And guess what? He left the army in England, moved to America, right? Having hooked up with John Stallmeyer, who was a trainee who was responsible for us going into a thing, opened a soccer coaching course and had hundreds of young American kids on a coaching course. And some of our own players, Kenny Joseph, Ron La, and all, and Kenwin Cooper and those guys, when all took from leaving the army in the summer, went up and were coaches on his coaching course. And all of that he did. The other one, Derek Godwin, he was the Navy coach. And we brought him out in 76, but he didn't follow John. But John Alice has it also. Well, I don't know if he still has it now, because John is probably in his 80s also. But John had hundreds, and I literally mean hundreds of young Americans coaching in a coaching school in Virginia.
Wow.
And used our coaches, Ron LaForest and Kenny Joseph and these guys.
Okay. Major, I would like to thank you for giving me the information and your time. And I wish you all the best and stay safe.
Thanks a million.